When October creeps in, most gardeners start winding down. They pull up tired summer crops, clean their tools, and assume the season's over. But those who know soil chemistry and plant cycles understand something powerful. October isn't the end of the season, it's the beginning of the easiest one. This short window before winter is when the soil is still warm enough for roots to establish, and the cool air encourages plants to channel their energy into growth rather than fighting heat stress. Miss this window, and you lose one of nature's simplest harvest opportunities. Because while others let their beds sit empty, smart gardeners are planting crops that feed both the soil and the dinner table well into early winter. Why late-season planting is a secret weapon for healthier soil and quicker spring growth. By the time October hits, soil organisms are still active, but the intense summer microbial burn-off has slowed. This means anything planted now will experience slower, more stable growth supported by microbes that are less stressed by heat. The roots of fall crops act as living aerators, preventing compaction from those winter rains. Plus, they capture leftover nutrients before they have a chance to leach away. Even if you live in regions where frost comes early, planting certain species now can still yield quick harvests, or they can provide a soil boost that pays off in spring. It's a win-win situation, really. This is the time when gardeners should think in terms of dual-purpose plants. We're talking about crops that produce quick food while also conditioning the soil. It's a smart strategy for any gardener. That's what makes fall gardening so efficient. Every seed you sow in October serves a second purpose beyond harvest. It's building your soil's foundation for next year. Leafy greens and fast-rooting crops that thrive in cool weather. If you want an edible harvest before deep winter, focus on crops that germinate fast and don't mind dropping temperatures. Spinach, for example, becomes sweeter as the temperature cools because it converts starch into sugars for frost protection. Alright folks, when you're ready to plant spinach, just direct seed it into your garden beds. Aim for about a ½ inch deep. Now, remember to water lightly every 2 to 3 days until those little guys are well established. After just 3 weeks, you'll be able to start cutting those young leaves. And here's the best part, it'll keep regrowing continuously through the fall. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. Now, let's talk about radishes and turnips. These are another October miracle if you ask me. They can germinate in as little as 5 days when the soil temperatures are between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius. This makes them absolutely perfect for quick succession planting. Mix a handful of wood ash into the top inch of soil before planting to raise potassium levels, which improves root swelling and flavor. Water evenly to prevent cracking, and you can expect crisp roots in under a month. Garlic also belongs in the ground before October ends. Each clove you plant now will send out roots before winter hardens the soil. Space cloves about 6 inches apart and 2 inches deep, then cover with mulch. By spring you'll have strong shoots that turn into full bulbs by early summer. For gardeners who want a low-effort win, garlic is unbeatable. Once planted, it practically grows itself. Let's talk about how cover crops can actually turn your fall garden into, well, a living compost system. For those of you who are more focused on soil health than, getting a harvest right away, fall cover crops are honestly the best investment you can make. These aren't just placeholders, they're dynamic soil builders. By planting a mix of legumes and grasses right now, you're not only feeding those essential soil microbes, but you're also protecting your garden against erosion. Hairy vetch, crimson clover and winter rye are 3 standouts that create what's known as a living mulch. When planted together, say 1 part vetch to 2 parts rye, they balance each other perfectly. Rye builds biomass and suppresses weeds, while vetch fixes nitrogen and feeds worms. The key is to broadcast the seed over loosened soil, rake it lightly, and keep it moist for the first week. Once they establish, their roots anchor the soil and their foliage captures sunlight that would otherwise go to waste. In early spring, simply cut them down and leave the residue to decompose. The result is, well, an instant nutrient layer, without ever touching your compost pile. Now, let's talk about the often overlooked value of root crops and herbs when it comes to late planting. Root crops like carrots and beets, they often get ignored in October because, gardeners just assume it's too late, but if your frost date is still a few weeks away, these are actually perfect candidates for a final sowing. So, for the best results, choose shorter maturing varieties like nonce carrots or early wonder beets, and it's a good idea to mix 1 part compost to 1 part sand in your top layer to keep the soil nice and loose for easier root formation. Keep moisture consistent, and even if you don't get full-sized roots before frost, the greens alone can be harvested for nutritious stir-fries. Hardy herbs like parsley, cilantro, and chives also thrive in cool soil. They germinate a bit slower, but they can handle light frosts without any trouble. For gardeners using raised beds, sowing herbs along the borders helps prevent erosion and adds quick green cover that deters weeds. A trick used by many seasoned growers is to interplant these herbs between rows of garlic or spinach, maximizing every inch of space while improving the aroma balance that keeps pests away. If you garden in regions that experience early frosts, don't give up on October planting, just adapt your methods. Start seeds indoors in trays, and then, transplant those hardened seedlings into protected garden beds about 2 weeks before the last frost. Use simple cold frames or low tunnels made from plastic sheeting and wire hoops to, extend your season by several weeks. The trapped heat keeps the soil several degrees warmer, allowing roots to, continue developing. A layer of mulch, like straw, shredded leaves, or even dried grass, acts as insulation, trapping both warmth and moisture. For garlic and overwintering greens, this step is, honestly, critical. Mulching not only prevents freezing damage but also keeps steady microbial activity going below the surface, so the soil stays alive even when the top layer freezes. When you plant now, you're not just growing crops, you're actually engineering soil structure for the next cycle. The fine root systems left behind by fall plants decay into humus by spring, feeding bacteria and fungi that trigger natural nutrient release. That's why gardeners who plant late often report their spring beds needing less fertilizer and water. So don't pack up your tools yet. You still have a few precious weeks to turn this fall into the easiest harvest you've ever had, and set the stage for a thriving spring. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to HydroHaven for more practical, soil-smart methods that help you grow year-round with less effort and better results. Share this with a fellow gardener who's ready to plant smarter, not harder.